Hey everybody, welcome back. Kate, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
Thank you. What are you doing right now for your career? You're a nurse, right?
I'm a registered nurse. I work on Manitoulin Island. I work considered acute care, which is like hospital setting. There's an emergency department as well as the inpatient unit or the floor, and I work between both units. It's basically a hallway and another hallway. It's not very big at all.
Right.
And our site also provides chemotherapy, but I don't do that. It's extra certifications that I'm not super interested in right now. But other than that, that is my only position as a nurse right now, but there are many other options.
Have you ever thought about going into med school?
I did actually, initially, when I was in high school and in like first and second year of university. Nursing was basically a pathway to med school for me. But then between second and third year, I really got a true taste of what it takes to get into med school. Yeah. I was actually in a club called the Pre-Med Club, and it was med school people. It was big nerds, but I loved the people in that club. And it really taught me like how much work and how much like sacrifice and what it was really going to look like to go to med school. And I kind of thought, I don't know that I really want that. Right. I don't know that I want to continue and spend like 8 more years in the university and like intense academia. I think I would rather work as a nurse for a few years and maybe I come back to it and go back to med school later. There's nurse practitioner as an option. But yeah, initially I was like, I'm going to be a doctor. And it's not that I don't think I could do it. Right. I just don't think.
Because I would disagree with that.
That like 8 more years of like intense academia was going to be for me. I wanted to be like hands-on. I don't like research.
No?
I don't like, so in nursing, there's a couple courses that are fully based in research and like how to do a proper qualitative or quantitative analysis.
And that
like
sets you up to go to med school?
No, it just sets you up to be like a critical thinker when it comes to literature. Right. So there's tons and tons of research everywhere, right? And when you write papers, you base it all on the literature. So it was more to teach you how to critically analyze a piece of literature and deem it like effective and intelligent and useful or like just a bunch of crap.
Right.
So in order to do a master's, you have to do a thesis.
Yeah.
I don't want to do a thesis. I don't want to do research. I want to work in the hospitals.
Right.
I don't come off this like anywhere else in my life, but I'd be like adrenaline at the emergency department. I love the emergency department. Right. I love not knowing what's going to walk in the door. I love being forced to react and adapt quickly, and
keeps you on your toes.
You don't get that in reading a critical analysis of like 15 papers combined into one, like a meta-analysis. It wasn't for me.
Right. So now, having your master's in nursing then, does that mean you can be a nurse practitioner?
No, so there's a nurse practitioner program, the one through Laurentian. I believe you get your master's concurrently, but you don't do a thesis. But you can do a master's in nursing.
Okay.
But you can focus on like lots of different, so you can do like a master's with a focus on like wound care. Or a master's with a focus on like occupational health.
Right.
Or like you can specialize a little bit more, and I think it goes into like what you do your thesis on as well.
Yeah.
Like I had a couple profs who were writing a thesis about like COPD and the anxiety short of breath continuum. So like it was always thought that they got short of breath, so then they got anxious. So then they got more short of breath, so then they got more anxious, but they think now it's that they get anxious, and then they get short of breath.
Yeah.
So there's lots of, like, as simple as it is to say, like, oh, I'm a nurse, there are so many different things that you can do as a nurse. Like, there's, like, at the health unit, there's nurses that specialize in teaching women how to breastfeed. There's nurses that specialize in clean injection sites and safe drug use. There's nurses that do chemotherapy. There's nurses that specifically focus on wound care and ostomies. Like, there's occupational health nurses. There's just tons and tons of different, and even within the different floors of the hospital, like if you're a cardiac nurse, you have a very honed, focused body of knowledge, whereas if you're like in Emerge, the expression I hear a lot is like a jack of all trades, but a master of none. You kind of know a little bit about everything, but you're not like specialized in everything. And then you have like the ICU nurses that are just like specialized in sick people, and
it's like independent care unit.
Good at what you do, like intensive care unit.
Intensive care.
You're usually not awake to be in there. So
no.
No.
So what kind of things like people would be
in the ICU? You're usually intubated, which means you have like a tube breathing for you, which means you're also paralyzed. Like they give you what's called a paralytic to keep you from fighting the tube, but it also means you can't breathe on your own. It paralyzes your diaphragm.
Well.
And so, like, basically, if you are in, like, big catastrophic traumas, if you don't go through surgery very well, and you need some help coming out of surgery, there's a cardiac ICU as well as a medicine ICU. It's lots of different things, and there's lots of different things that they may look physically fine, but, on paper in their lab work, they're an absolute disaster. So there's lots of things that you can be in the ICU.
Do you have a lot of people in the ICU right now on the island?
We don't have an ICU.
Oh.
If you are sick enough to be in an ICU, you are getting the hell off the island.
You
don't have the resources.
What hospital? Like, does Sudbury have one? I'm sure.
Sudbury has probably like a 30 to 40 bed ICU, I would say. Yeah. We send a lot of people to Sudbury. Yeah. So like, there's different tiers in terms of hospitals. So Sudbury is like a tier 2, I want to say, trauma center.
Right.
So anything that is, so we're probably, I don't know what we actually are, but we're probably like a tier 4. Like we don't have the resources to manage catastrophic traumas. Like we can get you as stable as possible, but then like you can't stay here.
Right. You get shipped off. And then is that where a helicopter would come in?
You either leave by land or by Orange Air. If Orange is available. If not, you're in the back of an ambulance for 2 hours. And we've sent intubated patients that way all the time. You get a nurse and a doc in the back with you, and you have some syringes of drugs, and they just keep you alive
get to Sudbury. Long enough to get.
They keep you stable.
Sorry.
If you're intubated, you're generally stable.
Yeah.
You're breathing on your own, or you're being breathed for, so that's good. But that means you have to take the ventilator in the back of the ambulance.
Oh man.
Transfers are the beginning of my existence, not because they're awful, only because I get extremely motion sick. I vomit every time I go on a transfer at work, so I kind of try to avoid them.
You ride in the back of an ambulance for 2 hours,
and then 2 hours back,
keeping the patient stable.
Yeah, if they don't leave you there, sometimes you get stuck there. Like we've had nurses in Sudbury for 24 hours before.
Yeah. What are your shifts like? 24?
12s. 12. We work 12s. I work part-time, so we don't have part-time lines or like a scheduled part-time, so I work randomly whenever. I really enjoy it. I like the flexibility. Sometimes you just have like 9 random days off that you didn't ask for, and it's easy to travel. I can come back and see my parents quite often. I can go down south and see my family down there. You get time to do stuff around your house. Like I like the flexibility of part-time.
You can be productive elsewhere aside from your professional life.
And lots of the girls that I know that do work part-time have another part-time job as well. There's lots of people that commute into Espanola or work home care or do something else.
Have you ever considered that?
No, I will never do home care.
Why is that?
It is not for me. No, I don't. I like having the security of a building where I know where everything is, where I know what I have, where I know who I have. I have a physician, I have coworkers. You have everything in case something goes wrong. Generally in home care, like they're not super sick while you're going into them. It's like a lot of wound care and like on the island the PSWs do a lot of the bathing. Like it would be basic stuff, but I have no interest in going into other people's homes. Lots of people do it and love it.
Right.
Jack's mom did it for like 10 years.
Oh, nice.
The difficult thing, specifically on the island, is that it is quite a large landmass with quite a small population. You do a lot of driving.
Yeah.
You put a lot of miles. I think Jack said his mom put like 50 or 60,000 kilometers on her car in the first year that she did home care. Like, you do a lot of driving. And all of it, yeah. So it's just a different, it's just like they do like mileage. They pay you mileage and stuff.
Oh,
but like
I
I've
hope
heard,
so. Jeez.
I've like had, you know, like heard stories before of like, so the island, basically the two tips of the island are like
Right.
Wemekong and Meldrum Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And you're looking at about like 2 hours to drive between them.
Mm-hmm.
And like I've heard of people that like had clients scheduled on the same day in both places. Like, it's just
You see 3 people.
unrealistic.
Oh.
So I don't think they do that as bad anymore.
Right.
I think that was like back in the day. But yeah, I
not
don't
your
really like
scope.
driving.
Mhm.
I have personally have no interest in home care.
Yeah.
I might do like privately hired, where it's just one person
Right.
and you're only going into like you're with that one specific person and
Right.
it's more intensive care. But I don't.
You only go
This
to
time,
6 different patients.
I have no interest in home
Just to be personal
care.
support. Right.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's a great field. They're constantly looking for nurses. Like, I would venture to say like you will never not find a job in home care. Like, they're always hiring.
Right.
It's just not for me.
Right. Cool. Since you prefer the adrenaline, that adrenaline rush and everything, hope you know where this is going. What is the best trauma incident that you've seen? In terms of best, I mean, like, what is something that happened that somebody came in with an injury and it was just chaos, and it ended up just getting handled? Like, sweet spot.
There was a gunshot wound one time
What happened
in
there?
the neck. That one was a long time ago. I'm trying to think of something more recent. We had a person. You know what you would be surprised happens more often than you would think it does? People get run over by their own cars.
What?
So I've been a nurse for
Their own car.
like, 2.5 years? Almost 3 years. I've seen it twice where people were doing stuff with their car and thought it was in park and then ended up behind it or beside it in some way and end up getting like run over by their
Stressed
own vehicle.
What?
The last one I saw, he broke his femur and his pelvis.
Because of his own, like, complacency?
No, he
Is that
just
or
like you know, you get moving fast and like he just thought the car was in park and then he like went to get out, realized it wasn't, and then his leg got hooked and he ended up falling, and then it was parked on a bit of a slope, so it just rolled on over him. But yeah, you would be surprised, like the ways in which people can injure themselves, because often they're either just like mind-blowingly impossible and you're like, there's no way that you didn't do worse damage, or they're like incredibly stupidly simple. Like the amount of like fractured ankles that we see from people who are just like, I stepped off a curb funny and I fell, or like, you know, like, or like I stepped on a rake and it popped up and broke my nose. Like, I've actually seen that, like, cartoon style.
dude.
Yeah, like it's just funny, like the like very mundane ways that people can just get like the way that people break their hips. I always find it's like, it's never like big traumatic. It's just like I was standing and my feet, like I went to take a step or something and I slipped and I fell and I broke my hip. Like, they're very, very minor injuries for something like a hip fracture takes like weeks to recover from, especially the older that you get. And it's just like simple. I'm always shocked that it's like, it's never this like big catastrophic car crash that breaks people's bones. We do see those and they suck.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always like silly little things that you don't think would be that bad, and people, you know, like break their wrist or break their ankle. Or...
So what is like the best, like most intense moment you've experienced so far in the hospital?
Most intense, I don't know. I guess I could say, like, without giving away like a lot of detail because of confidentiality and stuff, but I had to give very intense care to a friend. Like, no, not a friend. Like, it was when it's somebody that you potentially know, it becomes very difficult to separate yourself and to be that, like, objective person who, like, goes through and does their job. Like, it gets very, and where I work is a very small community, and so, like, while I might not know them personally, like, you know people that are connected to them. Like, it was a friend of a friend kind of thing, and it was like I hadn't worked there very long, but it was a friend of a friend, and I was just kind of like, oh man, you know, like, I know this person, like, I've seen this person outside of being a patient, and so it gets very, like, it gets difficult to be able to, like, separate yourself, whereas, like, in a big city, how often is that, like, really gonna happen?
Pretty rare.
In the smaller town, it becomes almost inevitable. You get to know people. They come in regularly. You get to know them as patients. Like, it's unfortunate, but, like, it happens. And I'm sure it even happens in big cities where, you know, in big cities, you're able to remove yourself from that situation, you know, and say, like, hey, no, I can't be involved in this. Whereas, like,
small city,
in the smaller city, you know, like, you have 3 nurses. Like, I can't just tap out. Like, you have to be able to try and work through it. And, like, at that point, I really didn't know them, like, that well, but it was still, you knew, like, a surprise. I didn't expect to find myself in that situation so early in, and I was just like, wow, like, this is. It becomes difficult when you like, somewhat know them from previous caring. Like, it gets a little bit more and more difficult.
You have some form of relationship or connection with them. Yeah,
like, you just know, because, like, really, you can't, like, if I was a family member, I'm not allowed by like law to provide care to them. I would have no choice but to step away. But he was not, like, this. They weren't a family member, like, really. We weren't, like, that acquainted, but, like, it's just different the first time when you're just like, whoa, I know that person, you know. And he was, like, really not well.
He wasn't just like coughing.
Yeah, you're just like, oh man, like, I know who that is, or, like, I know that guy's uncle or something. Like, it just gets harder and harder to. Yeah, it's hard to, like, remove yourself when you like, once you build that relationship with them, even as a patient. It gets difficult to see them do poorly. And, like, you start to take stuff.
Yeah. And now you said something, like, a few minutes ago, though, about when you do see that person in the care, it's tough to, like, remove yourself as somebody who knows them and put your game face on.
Kind of, yeah. Like, especially in the emergency department, where, like, you need to pay attention to what you're doing. Like, you don't want to have, you know, like, a cloudy brain doing important, you know, like, I don't want to say life-saving, but life-saving things, you know, when you're doing, like, drug calculations and making sure that you're giving them the right amount of drug that could easily kill them if you don't give it correctly. Or, you know, when you're trying to just, like, it's a different mindset being in, like, what's called a code or, like, a trauma. Like, there's tons and tons of algorithms and lots of stuff that's designed to make it easier to think clearly and concisely, but it does get, look, it's hectic. It's controlled. Like, it's organized chaos.
It's organized chaos.
At best. In any emergency department. That's a good way to put it. And I've been in, like, I did a placement in a bigger center, and it's still the same, even with, like, way more resources. There's always at some point a little bit of chaos.
A little chaos.
You know, because you don't know what's coming in, or who, or how, or you never know.
So after we did the rescue at the pool where I used to work in Ottawa, right? Like, however, 3 or 4 years back.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, we had, it was a crazy time. We had, I think, the following Thursday. So it happened on Thursday, about a week removed, at like 10 a.m. We had a meeting, all of us who were present at the rescue, with this the psychology guy, like the guy who's head of these kind of things. And he was the head of, he was a supervisor for the Ottawa paramedics. And he told us, he's like, man, I've been through thousands, like, he gave a speech, a whole thing, right, the whole shebang, and like pamphlets, people who to call, like techniques to be present so you're not like removed always and going, what the fuck, like what do I do? Or something happens that reminds you of the incident and you go into freak mode at the worst time. And he said, I've done probably thousands of like CPR rescues, like stuff like that, and I froze up when my daughter, 6 months ago, I think it was, my 3-year-old daughter was just coughing and she was choking and I froze. And I was like,
it's hard.
What happened?
It's funny how your brain can immediately just like almost melt when it's like somebody truly close to you. Like this person wasn't that close to me, it was fine.
Right, it wasn't
like we worked through it. But yeah, it becomes difficult to have your family see you as you and not as a nurse sometimes. And sometimes it's not like that at all. Like I don't find my family in any way, or even really like a lot of my friends come to me and say like, oh, you're a nurse, what about like, can I ask about this random rash on my butt? Like you'd be surprised it happens more than you think.
Really?
Yeah, but it's hard because you go through stuff with your family. And I mean, like a good example that I can give right now is like the fact that I am a registered nurse, I think has made it much easier for me to cope with and deal with my grandfather having like aggressive dementia.
Oh.
And I don't know, I find for me I've been able to have that objective view of like, here's the reality of dementia, here's the reality of this, here's the reality of this. I know that, but there's a softer way to make sure that your family also knows it and to manage expectations.
So you're drawing that line well.
That like I'm still, like I'm not afraid to be blunt with my grandma in the beginning and say like, eventually he's not going to know who you are and I need you to understand that. And I'm okay with having like using that because I witness it, like I see it all the time. And so you find though, have you seen people where they aren't aware or they haven't come to that realization that they won't remember? Everybody processes things differently. Like it is like a lot of the times you see people in denial about a lot of different things, and the best thing that I've learned is that people cannot and will not change unless they want to, and so you can't really force it. You can just give them the information that you have and the options, and people can make their own decisions, but you can't force somebody into changing their eating habits because they're a diabetic, or you can't force a chronic cardiac patient to quit smoking. Like, he's a person and he's gonna make his own choices. The best I can do is support you, but say, you and I both know smoking's not good for you.
No.
If you're gonna choose to continue, that's your choice. But I just need to know that you understand the consequences of continuing to smoke. And if they say then that's your choice, man. Smoke a cigarette. What am I gonna do?
You can bring a horse to water. You can't make a drink.
Exactly. Like I'm not gonna force a nicotine patch on you, because when you go home from the hospital, what are you gonna do?
Start smoking again.
So it's learning that, like, while you want to help everybody, and I think that's why a lot of people go into nursing, because they want to help, they want to make a difference. Like, sometimes making the difference is just being supportive in whatever they're choosing and saying, like, I'm not judging you, but I want you to understand
these are the consequences.
If you choose to continue smoking, there's a good chance that you'll lose your leg because of vascular issues or whatever. And if they say, okay, I get that, but I'm going to continue to smoke, then
it's like, okay. It's
that's
not
your
getting
choice.
too invested in telling them this.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna fight with you. That's your choice. I maybe don't agree with it, but it's not my leg, so.
Yeah, fair. You can't get too emotional about all that.
Yeah.
Do you find you have like a good on-off control switch with being emotional with certain things and not being emotional? Like where you're able to control your emotions a lot easier?
Yeah, I like to think so. I mean, everybody has days where you just like can't help it but get frustrated or upset or take something like truly to heart. But I often remind myself that when I meet you as one of my patients, chances are you're not feeling well, you're not having the best day of your life,
Right.
and you probably don't want to be there. So why would I expect you to be happy, cheery, and
Yeah, that's a
polite
good
with
point.
me when you feel like shit, you're in a lot of pain, and you just want to get better, and I'm the one who's supposed to, you know, help you with that. Like, you
Right.
can't take, when people get upset or not even like rude, like, 'cause some people are rude and it happens, but I find like one of the biggest things in nursing, and they do talk about it, like they teach it in school, but it's hard to teach empathy
Right.
and like putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. Like, imagine if I felt this way and I was here and this nurse came and asked me for the 4th time today when the last time I pooped was. You know, like, I would get frustrated. I would be annoyed.
Yeah.
Like, it's just managing, you know, like, it's not
Look at
me.
that.
It's the situation that they're in.
Right.
They're not mad at me
They're
as a
not mad at you
person
for
necessarily.
asking.
Like, for the most part, they're
Yeah.
not mad at you as a person. They're in
Right.
a situation they don't like. And
Right,
they
they're
want
not
out.
mad at you for asking, they're mad that you have to ask.
Exactly. They're mad that it's
Yeah.
the 4th time that they've been asked, you know, when was the last time you pooped?
Yeah, and you still.
They're like, I don't want to continue telling you this. I just want to feel better, you
Yeah.
know? Like,
Right.
I find like the easiest way to like build a rapport with a patient is to like stop and think, like, you know, if I was in their shoes, what would I want right now? You know, like, if I was feeling this way and this was going on with me, like, what would I do? How would I feel?
Right, and you can link that to not just patients, but people. It's
Exactly.
Like, why they're having a shit day, well, if I was
Exactly.
feeling. Right.
You know, like, a lot of the
Empathy.
times when people like lash out or are rude, like, if you just stop and think, like, you know, what's their life like? You have no idea.
Yeah,
Like, where do they come from? Who knows?
right. You don't know what's going on.
Don't judge about it. Just work with, like, you know, where you're at. And
Mm-hmm.
we do see a lot of like drug addiction and alcoholism,
Right.
and that's not just on the island. That's lots of places, like everywhere has
Yeah,
issues
we're
with that right
actually-
now, actually. But like, it's not for me to judge like why you choose to do that or you know what you chose to do that. It's for me to just get you through what you're here for, and
True.
if you're going to go home and continue to use, that's
Right.
your choice. But you know, here are some options if you don't want that life anymore, and
I get that.
I'll help you either way, basically.
Right.
So
Okay. Yeah, so that support person, no matter what, it's just providing them with the care that they need, and sometimes you can only go so far. You can't place the nicotine patch on them, but
no, like, you
you can
can't
guide them in the right direction.
You know, like, if you have a patient like that, you find out, I don't know, like, I can't think of it, like died of an overdose or
Yeah.
like wound up getting that amputation. Like, you know, you kind of think about it like, yeah, that really sucks, but you know, I did what I could, and it's not expected of me to do any more than that.
Nice.
Like, there's going above and beyond for your patient, and like, I find that is more prevalent in like little things than, I don't know, like, yeah, you can't force people to change.
Right. So, with that being said, could you give me like a quick summary of what the difference between regular standard first aid CPRC is for like the average person versus nursing first aid? Kind of what the difference is and everything, because there was a time where I remember pretty well, it was weird, where you would take your first aid or you didn't have your first aid CPRC, but I remember you saying, I sat in a class and knowing, it's like, I
had to
know way
really
more than this,
take
like way more in
first
depth.
aid. Yeah.
But
Well, if you think about it, like, anybody can do first aid, right? It's
Right.
a 2-day course, 2 8-hour days. Anybody can learn the
Pretty
basics of first aid, and the basics of first aid are this: stabilize it and call 911, right?
right,
If it's a wound, cover it, call 911. If it's a heart attack, do CPR, call 911, right? Like, it's basic. Anybody can do BLS. Anybody,
Basically,
in
yeah,
theory,
yeah.
can be a nurse, but that's a 4-year degree,
No,
or even
not 2 8 hours.
even
Oh, okay.
RPN.
Yeah,
You know, it's still a great program. They basically do the same as RNs. It's just, there's like it's critical thinking. It's like, learning about, you know, all these diseases, all these medications, all these pathologies, all these things,
Right.
and being able to piece it together in a day and think like, oh, you know, my patient says they don't feel well, but I bet it's because, you know, they're on a blood pressure medication. I bet you their blood pressure is a little bit low. Maybe I'll check their blood pressure. You check it, you find out, oh shit, it's low. I'll go talk to the doctor. We'll deal with this. Like, it's managing a human being is nursing, right? And while critically thinking and trying to, you know, predict what your next steps might be, trying to like watching for warning signs that things like might be going downhill or anything like that, and like knowing when, because like if you, I don't even think they teach you to count a pulse in CPR. They don't, but like a low pulse and a fast pulse are two very different things, and there's just more of like a background knowledge and a larger part of critical thinking. Like critical thinking is huge in nursing, and that's what they try their best to teach it, but I don't know how you teach it necessarily.
You teach
but
critical
it's just
thinking?
Piecing, it's looking at a bigger picture, and piecing more pieces together.
Okay, so like, okay, you're right. Just, if you see a bandage or you see break something, immobilize it. But it's like very basic versus
Like
very
realistically, everybody should have first aid and CPR and be able to manage most of their first aid issues at home, but that's not really the case. And you see a lot of people that go, you know, to the walk-in clinics or to Emerge for stuff that they probably could have handled on their own, but just don't have the knowledge to do so.
Right. So, with that being said, I have another, more of a fun question for you.
Okay.
What is the best, in your opinion, medical TV show that portrays properly? Because we've talked about this in the past. I know this in terms of like Grey's Anatomy,
It's
Scrubs.
not Grey's Anatomy. It's not Grey's Anatomy. And let me tell you why.
All right. Let us hear it.
I don't know if you've ever met a surgeon, but they don't work that many in one area, and they sure as shit don't spend that much time with a patient. Like, I have seen episodes of Grey's Anatomy where like 2 of them are getting a patient up to walk them for the first time, let's say.
2 surgeons.
They don't do that.
No.
That's nursing, that's physiotherapy. Like, there is absolutely no, the only nursing representation that I remember in Grey's Anatomy is one of the nurses gives like 3 of the doctors an STD. Like, that's the only time that they really look at nurses. Like, it's not good. I don't watch very many medical TV shows anymore, mostly because the inaccuracies like frustrate the shit out of me. Yeah. But also because I find it hard for me to like live that for 12 hours in a day
and then see it incorrectly.
And then come home and watch a TV show about it. Like, the TV shows that I watch personally are pretty fucking stupid. But it's because they just make me laugh and they don't make me think and... Yeah, you don't want to add more on. No, like for me, medical shows, I don't really watch them anymore. I did a lot when I was in high school.
Which one did you, like which do you think of?
So my favorite would be Scrubs.
Yeah.
I've actually answered like multiple choice questions on an exam because of an episode of Scrubs that I watched one time. Like, Scrubs, yes, was unrealistic. And
that's awesome.
Like, there was like jokey humor and goofy stuff, but like a lot of the just like medical things that they spoke about, and a lot of the things that they dealt with too. Like, there's an episode where they deal with death, and I think it was portrayed. You know, they died. They didn't save him, and that happens a lot. Right. And it's something that you have to come to terms with. And they did have more of a nursing representation. Like a lot better. I mean, none of them are truly accurate to like what it's like. Like, the other day at work, I had somebody physically poop in my hands, but I love my job. I had gloves on, but like, there's never going to be a medical TV show that shows you that that's what nursing is. Yeah, they're not going to have a TV show where somebody shits in the person's hands. Exactly. Wow. You know, like you love your job. That's like the third time that you... Like the millionth time you've brought them to the bathroom because they have like really bad diarrhea and they just poop everywhere. You know, like TV shows don't show that, but like... 1 pair of gloves or 2? I'm gonna at 6. But like, that's the realities of... Like, the realities of nursing is that it's unpredictable and... It's predictably unpredictable. But that's the best part. But yeah, like there will never be. But like in terms of like medical information and stuff, I've like Scrubs was pretty good.
Yeah. So you couldn't, though, switching to that though, your last point, you couldn't predict a typical day. Like your typical day is different from tomorrow's typical day.
If I work 4 shifts in a row, 3 shifts in a row, and you have the same patients most of those days, you can probably predict your day.
Right.
I knew that lady was going to poop because I gave her a laxative because she hadn't pooped in 5 days. Like I predicted the poop, I just didn't predict that it was going to
end up
happen
in
like
your
that.
hands.
Like for the most part, on the floor, like in the inpatient where people are admitted, for the most part, you can have like we have days where I would be like, this is a typical day.
Like
it's
this
busy.
happens before. So.
You know, like you can't predict necessarily other people's actions, but you can basically predict the timeline.
Okay.
Whereas in Emerge, like, you can't predict anything.
No.
You have no idea.
Nice.
You can try, but you just never know.
So then, what would you recommend to anyone right now who's going through the nursing program, whether it be at Cambrian or Laurentian? What would you recommend to them, based off all your knowledge that you have now?
In general?
Yeah. Or you can go specifics with placement, anything that you think would be beneficial for them to know.
I guess one thing would be find a hobby. Like you can't let academia and nursing just take over your entire life.
So it's easy to be overwhelming? Overwhelmed?
Yeah. And it's very easy. I don't know. I'm still learning how to let stuff go. But start working on that now if you're not good at it.
Okay.
I don't know. Don't be afraid to apply for a job that you think you want, or like a place that you think you'd like. Like, don't be afraid to do, like, there's so many options in nursing. There's just so many options. Like, and don't be afraid to like try one out and be like, oh wow, turns out this is not for me. Like, I know for me personally from a placement, I don't like labor and delivery.
Right.
That's not where I see myself. Maybe, I don't know, years from now, like, your opinions will change, but I don't know. Don't, like, if you want to do public health or home care or anything, like, don't let other people make you think that you're not a real nurse because you don't work in a hospital.
Right.
If you want to do that, do it. If you want to work in the hospital, go for it. Like, don't be afraid to take a job that you think sounds cool as shit if other people are like, you're not a real nurse if you work at the health unit, because that's just not true. It's just a different body of knowledge. It's just a different scope of practice.
Right, you still have the same...
You do all the same stuff. You're the same thing. You're an RN at the end of your name. You still pay $300 a year to keep those 2 letters at the end of your name. But
nice.
Just be like, don't be afraid to go out there and work where you want to work, or try to go where you want to work.
Okay. So then, with that being said, that takes the advice. All that advice takes somebody all the way through to the end of the year. They graduate, but they need to become an RN, correct? In order to work in hospitals, work in home care.
Get your license.
Right. Yeah. So getting that license, what's that process like? I know you have to write an exam, but is it as easy as you call the place, sign up, register, and go?
So it's the NCLEX now.
Yeah.
It changed when I was in university.
NCLEX?
Yeah. I was the second goal of people that wrote the NCLEX.
Nice.
So it's still very new. It's computerized. Don't let that intimidate you. I wrote the NCLEX 6 months out of school after studying for 2 weeks.
And you passed the first time.
So
nice, Kate!
If you...
Congratulations.
Like, there's lots of different things to study. Basically, though, the outline is that Sudbury will have a writing twice a year, usually once in about February for the people that finish in December, and then once again in about June.
And that's
then
what
you come to Sudbury. I wrote mine in November in Toronto.
Oh, right. No,
so if you don't want to write in Sudbury, I would recommend don't put it off too long, because it's not as bad as you think it is. Just get it over with.
Right.
I waited. I worked at the camp for another summer, so I didn't write it before going to camp, and then I waited a good while afterwards. And I totally forget about it and got all of them in my head, but everybody's good.
Yeah, but you test pretty well, though.
I do. It's all multiple choice. Some of them are like select all that apply.
Okay.
some of them are like match these together things. There's no long answer or short answer. Like, there's no writing. It's all click boxes.
It's like you need to know. There's no like
well,
heart marks.
No, yeah,
No, you
and
need to know.
if
If you don't
like
know,
the
you-
ones, the ones that are like match this, you have to
Yeah.
get all of them right, or it's a 0. Like, you don't get a point.
Right. And question though, speaking of which, is that if you get a question wrong, that's an answer, like that's minus?
No. I don't actually, to be honest, like truthfully know how they mark it.
Right.
Because it's just like, I didn't get a grade. You just get a letter
Just
that
like,
says
hey,
you
you
passed.
passed or you did. Wow.
And so there are up to,
It's intense.
I think, like 265 questions. That might be different. It might be more, it might be a little bit less, but it's around there that you can potentially
It's a lot.
be asked.
Okay.
The way that it works is it starts with easier questions and it increases the difficulty. The more you continue to get right, the harder the questions get. If you continue to get them right, you can finish the test in 75 questions.
Okay.
Basically, if you finish in 75, you either did really well
Or you
did really
Shit
bad
the
with
bed.
it.
Okay.
Like, you either answered all the easy ones completely wrong, or you did good.
Right.
I finished the test in 80, and I thought I bombed it.
Oh, I see what you mean. You got up all in your head.
Yeah. And I was like alone in Toronto. Like, go with a friend if you're gonna go to Toronto.
So you just went by yourself to
my
write it
dad
and then-
brought me because he was doing
Right.
reading, and
Okay,
so
nice.
and
Well,
then I
that's
ended up
helpful.
walking 45 minutes into another town to look for a Starbucks because I read a map wrong. It was ridiculous. I just like freaked
It
out.
was just a stressful day.
Lost
Yeah.
it. And my dad had
Oh
to
my
come
God.
find me. I did it in an hour and a half as well. I was the first one done. That
Nice.
also made me panic. I was like, oh my God, I failed it. Like, I know I did. Don't do
Yeah.
that to yourself. It's not fair.
Right. Wow.
But, so yeah, if you continue to, so then if you get a hard question wrong, it kind of bumps back down to easy ones and starts to build up again. And so that's how you could continue on to 265. Now, I don't remember, if you answer all of the questions, there's a way that it determines like how you pass or fail.
Right.
But basically what it's doing is it's predicting predicting your success based on how you answer the questions. That's how it cuts it off at 80. Like, if you answer enough hard questions correctly,
Right.
by 75, it knows you'll pass, it stops you.
It's like, okay,
That's
you. Oh, okay, cool.
So if it
intense.
can't predict you because you're getting, like wrong, right, you just keep going.
just keep going.
You just keep getting questions.
Right.
Up until
Wow.
the limit.
That's no joke.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
a very, like, it's
A lot of people
a
get
testing procedure that you've never done before. Like,
You
you've
won't do it
never been
again.
tested like that in high
Yeah.
school. You've never been tested like that in university. When I went to university, it came out when I was in 3rd year, the change happened.
Mhm.
So we started prepping for the different test only in the
Right.
last 2 years. You know, people in school, at least now, have had that, being taught in that, like, testing mindset for
Right.
4 years. So you're lucky that you're ahead of the game. I think they've worked out some bugs. They update the test every 2 years.
Mhm.
The first year that it came out, there was big difficulties with a lot of American questions. So for instance, like, the Americans have different names for the different, like, the varying, like, RN, RPN, PSW. That's not
Mhm.
what they're called in the States.
No.
So you kind of have to learn those. And, like, I had a friend in the first year that had a test question about biological warfare. And like in anthrax and stuff, they don't teach you that shit in Canada. We never touched on that. So I think the longer it's been out, they've updated it more. And
Right.
the first year that it was written, they had a really, really hard time with French speaking students because the
Oh, no.
translation was just
Wasn't
not
good.
well done. Or like things just didn't translate, which, like, realistically, just translating directly from English to French, sometimes there's like linguistics
Yeah.
and expressions and stuff that are just lost, and it
Mhm.
doesn't
A lot
work
of it's
that
slang
way.
sometimes.
So I think that they've changed that.
Right.
But like, if 4 years of nursing prepares you to take a multiple choice test. There's just a way, I don't know, like, some people just can't do multiple choice and some people can.
Yeah.
And if you just prep yourself to do that multiple choice, shout out to UWorld. That's what I use to study. It's an app.
Okay.
You buy it for like 3 months, 6 months, or a year. The
You bought it for free?
subscription. I bought it for 3 months. It's basically just practice tests. You can choose from different topics, so like psych, or, cardiac or whatever, or you can choose just generally. But I found that it had really, really good explanations and rationale as to why this answer was correct and why these answers are incorrect. Because
so you understand.
oftentimes in nursing, all 4 answers to your multiple choice question are right. They are right. You have to pick the most right.
Well, that's...
It's a very
so then in the
convoluted way of
practice
testing.
test justifications for
are
each help.
written that way. Yeah, and like
That's
I found
pretty
I
helpful.
learned a lot studying for the NCLEX. It was just stuff that I hadn't been exposed to yet.
Right.
And there was lots of explanations as to like, you know, why this is the way it is. And like I found UWorld was really, really helpful.
Right. Okay.
There's lots of other stuff that you can do. There's lots of like weekend, like intensive things that are supposed to prepare you for them. I never did them. I had friends that did. I think it would be up to you personally. I didn't see the point in spending like $450 to go to Toronto for a weekend to be told that this is how the test is going to be done.
Right.
And
It's good
that like,
justification.
yeah, it just didn't seem, it just wasn't for me.
For you, yeah.
But if that's like what you want
sure
and
your
what
friends
you
did it in the
need,
past.
prepare yourself. Like if that's how you feel you need to prepare yourself, knock yourself out.
Okay.
But yeah, it wasn't for me personally.
Okay, so then that's what you recommend. Wouldn't book it ahead of time, or book it far enough in advance, but not too far.
Yeah, don't wait
Like,
too long. I waited a long time.
NCLEX, like go UWorld for the NCLEX.
Even if you do like those intensive, I thought UWorld was super helpful.
Right.
Put it that UWorld, like all the practice tests on UWorld, I never got higher than like a 60%. But it's because I was like learning as I went.
Right.
If that made sense. Like don't let it make you think you're going to fail because you can't get them right. But the way that they ask questions, they also usually include like more than one system. Like they're pretty in-depth questions.
Yeah.
So you're thinking about more at one time, you're learning more at one time. I found it just was like really helpful. And I have a couple other friends
who
that
did
used
as
it
well.
and like swore by it.
Yeah. Okay. And so, yeah, because that made it seem like you almost did perfect on it.
That's the
like
only
you did, what,
way.
hour and a half? Not even.
I did
Like
it,
80
so
questions,
there's a
so-
10-minute intro and I finished from beginning to end in an hour and a half. So I basically I did 80 questions in an hour and 20 minutes. So, and when you do it, you can't go back. So if you go to the next question, that's it. You never see that question again. So you have to answer them in succession. Like you can't skip them and come back to them. Like you have to answer that question.
So you see the question once, you have to figure it out. You can't go back or read them all first.
No, you read it. Sometimes there's like a little case scenario that you read, or they said that there was going to be ones where you had to like listen to a heart rhythm or a lung sound and identify it.
You didn't know that?
No, I don't remember having that. I remember thinking that I failed because they didn't ask me to do any math questions. And I thought for sure they wouldn't give me a license if they didn't know that I could do basic drug math. But they will.
They don't know.
I'm good at math.
That's funny. Oh, man.
Yeah, that was
That's good.
100%. Like that was the thing that I like convinced myself. I was like, they didn't ask me any math questions. I must have got all the easy ones wrong. I know I bombed it. I know I bombed it.
Right. Then you're just flexing on everybody in the most humble way. Like, yeah, it was only an hour and 20 minutes, not even an hour and a half, just 80
But
questions.
like some people, like, I don't find, like I feel like it's not fair for me to give advice. Like I
Right.
just am a person that
right,
tests
like
well.
you test well.
I'm
You're
good at it.
Yeah, like you read pretty well.
So like some people, if you have difficulties,
Like I know
with
people who failed it
testing
like
and
4
stuff,
times.
Yeah, like if you have difficulties, do whatever you can possibly do to make it easier for yourself. If that means
Right.
getting a tutor, get a tutor.
Get a tutor.
Go to the like learning center. Cambrian has a really good one that I've heard of. You know, like if you need to do that weekend intensive just to make sure
Like,
that you know what you're
do
doing,
it.
knock yourself out.
Right.
Like do what you need for you.
Where
Don't
you
let
just
other
studied
people be
and
like,
just went.
oh, it's not that hard. Like if you're worried about it, like don't worry too much. It's not as big of a deal as you think it is, but don't let other people's don't let what other people are capable of.
Right, you guys are different, right?
Yeah, like work on it for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there is lots of other stuff. Like I in high school never took another art class past grade 9, and I never took another shop class, and it's because I knew I wasn't good at it, so why bother? Like everybody has those things that
Right.
just doesn't, it's just not for them. So
That's fair.
Ignore other people.
Ignore other people. That's a good lesson, though. That's a good thing for people to be more aware of and not concern themselves with what other people are doing.
Yeah, like don't worry how many questions other people did it in. Like, you know.
Like, you pass, you fail.
Don't
That's the
worry
big
that
deal.
I did it in an hour and 20 minutes. Like if it takes you 4 hours, it takes you 4 hours.
But
Don't
if you pass,
worry about
that's
it.
all that matters.
Exactly. It doesn't matter how anybody else did it.
Right.
You are doing it for you.
Right.
So do it how you're going to do it.
Do it
if
how
you're
you're
a
gonna
long
do
test
it,
taker, take your time. They give you 6 hours, I think.
Right.
If you're not,
Plenty of time, it seems like.
yeah, like
Yeah. If you do it in 100,
your
200.
way. Don't worry about other people.
Right. Just, that's a good way of looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
So now we'll switch to a little less intense question. So when we were having coffee an hour ago, you mentioned your brain just has a bunch of useless facts. What are 5 like pretty cool ones that you think you'd want people to know? And we can come back to this if you want to give it a chance
Like
to think
medical
about
facts or like just facts
Either.
in general?
Both.
Oh God,
Yeah.
there's so many of them.
When someone says facts, you're like,
You have to give me like a subject. I can't just. This is like pulling from a library. I
oh,
can't
fair.
just
All
go
right,
grab a
psychology.
book. Okay. Let me think of an interesting book that I've read. This is the other reason why there's lots of. I'm really, really right now into like nonfiction books
Mhm.
only, and I find that like since I haven't been in university and like forced to be reading and learning and
You enjoy
retaining
reading
things
more.
every day, I miss it, and I'm reading more and more. Like right now, I'm
Nice.
reading a book by Bill Nye the Science Guy about
Yeah.
evolution and creationism. It's very interesting. It's well written. He writes like he teaches on
Yeah?
Bill Nye. It's so good.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Psychology. I mean, there's like a lot to do with psychology. There's like lots of interesting different parts of your brain. They have done research studies that have found drug addicts, IV drug users specifically,
IV's good.
if you do an MRI and inject them with not a drug, like it just the act of the needle, like the tourniquet and the needle alone can elicit the same response in the brain as the actual drug. So that's actually a piece of it. Like doing the drug and the actions and the steps that you take are like sometimes just as important to the addiction as the actual drug.
Wow. Is that the placebo, you think? Or is that... Seems like
could
it might
be.
But...
It
Or it's just
could
that
be.
action
I mean, I can kind
requires
of
that response.
understand it. Like, I feel very, very peaceful when I make a cup of coffee in my French press.
Mhm.
If I, take my beans, grind them up in our grinder, put them in the French press, boil the water, pour it, let it steep, push it down, like it's a process, right?
Right.
And I appreciate every part of the process, not just the coffee.
Yep.
A drug addict's brain appreciates every part of the process,
Not just the drug. Oh, okay. That's pretty
Which
cool.
I think is kind of neat.
Right. It's like, be great. Like, appreciating the process. It's the same thing, it's just drug users.
Yeah, like the needle itself is sometimes just as addicting as the actual drug.
Wow. That's
Which is
pretty cool.
kind of makes sense when you look at why they continue to escalate. And,
Right.
don't go back to pills because this is better and it feels better and it hits faster.
Right.
And lots of different stuff.
What's a cool, in terms of psychology, human interaction? What's a cool, fact you know about human interaction psychology? It could be, the way women and men react. It could be, to each other, or, interact with each other, per se. Or it could be, the way people
there's
interact.
lots of research on eye movement and what it gives away, and that if you're working on, if you're lying about something, your eyes don't move in the same way as if you're telling the truth.
Oh.
So I think what it is, this might be incorrect, so I haven't.
Fact check it.
Your eyes go up and to the right if you're recalling a memory, like if you're recalling something from the depths of your brain, but up into a different direction if you're lying.
Whoa.
Something like that.
Whoa.
That I
cool.
don't think I ever learned in school. That I
Right.
think was from
Some
the
of that
book.
stuff
But there's
from the book.
lots of different, like, people have a lot of very subtle tells.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually reading a book right now, Malcolm Gladwell. Remember that one I lent you?
Yeah, you let me.
Outliers?
Outliers, yeah.
So he just wrote another one called Talking to Strangers, and it's
Oh,
about
cool.
how on earth people can be deceived by strangers. So like one of the examples is like there's a bunch of people that met Hitler that were like, he's not hell-bent on destruction, and like I think he does want peace. Like he fooled them basically, and they met him like multiple times. And so it's kind of like looks at like how are people like able to do that, you know?
Wow.
It looks, I just started it, it looks
Yeah.
very interesting, but
Did you buy it today?
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
a good one.
he has a podcast.
Mhm, called
Yeah.
Revisionist
Yeah.
History. It's very
I
good
like
too.
that one. The most like the recent one, like, because I haven't listened to it often,
Yeah,
but the one that like I listened to Pulling the Goalie,
that's a good one.
I like that one. I think that's probably my favorite of them, just so like it's more relatable for me. Like the
Mhm.
hockey scenarios that he puts it through, and then like other stuff, and like why certain moments in history
Hmm.
like lead to
Mhm.
not repeat itself, but
There's another
Wow.
book that I'm reading. It's called, the first one is called Sapiens,
Mhm.
and the second one is called Deus. So
Right.
Sapiens was really interesting because it's like it's a little bit more of like an anthropology viewpoint. But the guy who wrote it is a PhD in history. But it just makes you think of, like makes you realize that like throughout history and like evolution and
Mhm.
stuff, like why things are the way they are today and like where they came from, that you really have no idea. So like one of my favorite little stories was like front lawns. Why do we have front lawns? We as people in today's day and age have meticulous front lawns because rich white people in France decided that they were going to show off their luxury and their wealth by having grass.
Wow.
Because it was hard to obtain, it was
Mhm.
hard to maintain because of like water and irrigation systems and all that stuff.
right.
But basically like,
Wow.
yeah, bougie people in France had front lawns, and then it just like took off where like bigger buildings, you know, and they started making like front lawns in India. Like I
Yeah.
think the Taj Mahal has a front lawn and
Probably. Yeah.
all this stuff, and then it
So.
slowly was like, it started out as a symbol of wealth.
That's
And now
cool.
like everybody is, you know, it's like expected in society that
Everybody
you have
has
like
a
a
front-
well done front lawn. Who gives a shit about lawns? I'm not some rich asshole in France, like I don't care if I have a front
What?
lawn. But that's where it comes from, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Sapiens was really good.
Sapiens, that's the name of the book?
Hmm.
Okay.
It's by a guy named
PhD in anthropology. So.
Yuval, like Yuval,
Yeah.
and then I think Harari is the last name.
I'll type in Sapiens. And then,
Yeah, you'll find it.
There
He
you
has
go.
like a series of 3. So then Deus is more about like present day humanity.
So you read his
and-
first one?
Yeah, Sapiens is the first one.
Nice.
Yeah, and so it looks at like the agricultural revolution, like how farming changed people from being like hunter-gatherers to agricultural producers.
Right.
The scientific revolution and the industrial revolution as like the
Mhm.
3 kind of cornerstones as to like the changing of humanity. But yeah, it's just neat to see like I was never really a history person, and as I still don't think I am a history person, but I think it's because I don't enjoy reading about the
Mhm.
wars in any way, shape,
No?
or form. I don't.
Not a fan of just
No,
the
I don't
war
like it.
psychology or anything?
No, and so
Why is
this
that?
was not quite focused on the war. It was more
Right.
just like the history. I just
In that
can't.
time.
I hate having to fathom and understand that
Like,
that happened and that existed
yeah,
like that.
because you
and people
can't
died for
understand
things.
it. I
and-
don't think, I can't comprehend it, and I listen to like
yeah.
a lot of history, read a lot, because I like, that's just interesting to me, like World War One,
Mhm.
World War Two, but
Like I find the history of religions very interesting as well.
Mhm.
But yeah, usually the war I don't like too in depth about
Right.
any of the wars. But his writing style is very good.
Yeah.
It's like in depth stuff,
Mhm.
but it's not. It's readable.
Right.
Like it's not absurd.
Okay.
Sorry.
Nice. Okay.
But yeah, that was a really good one. There's another fact in there about like why people, like, you know, when you eat something sweet, you kind of like binge it. You need a lot of it.
Yeah.
It's because when we were hunter-gatherers, you didn't always come across like sweet berries or fruits, or you didn't know when you were going to get it anymore. So you just ate as much as you could. And so now, like, your brain is like a little bit wired to think like, oh, I might not have this sweet stuff anymore, so I should eat lots of it.
Damn, that's cool. That's
Yeah,
really
it's
cool fact.
neat. It was a very
Nice.
good book.
So then, speaking of which, I was going to ask you, what are, in your opinion, the 5 best books to read?
Oh my god.
Like, what books would you recommend, or what books have you gifted to people?
Like, just in general,
In general,
or
yeah.
like medical? Okay,
Yeah.
in general.
Yeah, we'll remove medical from it.
Sapiens is definitely
Yeah.
one of them.
This is also for me. That's the question.
Well, you read some of those Malcolm Gladwell ones.
Yeah.
They're pretty
I read
good.
Blink. I've read Outliers.
Outliers was pretty good.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Your explanation of it, though, when you told me what it was about, and then what James told me what it was about, was pretty much the book. So
it's the same. It's just
a pretty
like the same example,
different
like just different examples for the same
yeah.
theory,
Same
basically,
theory,
right?
Right. It's like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, and then hockey players. So
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
examples, yeah.
Yeah. Other books. What have I read very recently? The problem is that I've been reading for a lot of
Ever.
years. The Alchemist is really good.
Yeah.
Paulo
Paulo.
Coelho.
Yeah.
Very good, actually. I heard that book with a patient one time, and it was nice.
Nice.
I mean, obviously the Harry Potter series.
Had to knew that was gonna come up.
Duh.
What's your favorite of the series?
Oh, probably the 7th book.
Yeah.
Ties stuff all the way back into the first.
You need that. Okay.
It's just very complex.
Okay.
And I appreciate that.
Nice.
Like, the books are far more complex than the movies. All of the books are.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But I liked the 7th, like, tied into stuff in like the first and the second.
Nice.
It was like the closure on a lot of stuff. I'm trying to think of like a fiction one that I've read, but I haven't read a lot of fiction recently. I read one, I wouldn't say it was my favorite, but I read one by Neil deGrasse Tyson called Astrophysics for Normal People. It was pretty interesting. There's a book called The Glass Castle that I read when I think I was in high school. It's also a true story. It's by a woman named Jeanette Wall. It's basically the story of her childhood, but she just has this like wild childhood. Like an abusive dad, a shitty mom, they move around a lot. Oh, there's one that I'm almost done reading. It is called Surviving the North, maybe. It's by a woman named Sia Sunrise Person. That's her full name. And it's a young girl that grows up. It's a true story. It's like her recount of her childhood. She doesn't go to school until she's like 13. But she grows up in the woods in California / BC with like a couple pot smoking
Right up there.
grandparents. Like they live in teepees. She doesn't know what underwear are until she's like 7. It's really, it's funny. It's funny, like very funnily written, but it's like wild to see like her background.
Like, you're a lot smarter than I am, so it makes it a lot like easier to just listen than it does to having to control the conversation. So I appreciate that. So
that last book,
yeah,
you can get that at Ramaco's.
Surviving the North. Yeah.
All of them, I'm sure, are at Chapters. All of them I have. Realistically,
Just get them at Kate's house.
I can mail them to you.
I might take you up on that because I'm reading I said Sapiens, so it's just one I was looking at. I'm reading right now The Effective Executive, where it just talks about like getting the right things done and how to like, if you have a lot of different things going on, how to focus on what and what to choose to focus on.
Okay.
And then I'm like a couple chapters in, so that's about all that I've figured out about it. And then it's just a matter of applying and like different ways to apply to the different steps. Right, where it's basically like useful tool for the podcast, useful tool for like work, training, and
For sure.
getting the most out of what you're doing, because nobody can just do one thing. Everyone has to do different things, right? It's like hobbies, like passions, stuff like that. So that's kind of where I want to tie it. This way I get the most out of what I'm learning and training in class there. I get the most out of work. I get the most out of my podcast and people listening and watching.
Yeah, for sure.
Get the most out of it because I'm developing skills that help the show. So, no. We met, what year was it? 2016, 15? 16 would make sense.
I think
You just
it
hit
was
me.
the first summer.
First
Because
summer?
2017 is when no, we must have met in 2015.
Yeah, one of the two. I'm not quite sure.
2015, because 2016 I graduated and then did the second summer. So we
Right,
met
so
in
it's probably
2015 when I was
summer.
still in school.
So yeah, you were ripping down Camp Bro. I was like, who's that? And then Julian's like, oh, it's the nurse, new wellness manager. I'm like, fuck that. Well, terrible. Camp nurse, because you can't actually legally call yourself,
because
right?
I legally wasn't a nurse.
No,
I got the
fair.
license.
So, for the entertainment of the people watching and for my own personal like knowledge, what was your first impression and what was it like working with me? We'll focus on first impression first, and I'll come back.
Well, you were the first person that I met
Yes, that's right.
when we got there.
Forgot about that.
I
Right.
think you might have been with somebody else, but you were definitely the first person that I actually talked to. And I
It's the first impression.
remember,
I can't.
talking about this in my interview the next year about who had like.
I don't think
I
I've heard
remember
this,
the
have I?
question. No,
Because he asked me the same. I think he might have asked me a similar question.
about like somebody like
Who's helped users,
yeah,
something like that.
like somebody about like something about like who had affected you at camp.
Yeah, that's what it
something like
was.
that. I can't remember the wording,
My
but
answer
I
was like,
remember.
"You."
I remember I said it was you, and you were the first person that I met, and you were
Yeah.
you weren't the only person, but you were the
Right.
first person that made me feel like a member of a family.
Aw.
And made me feel like that's exactly where I
Promise I
belong.
wouldn't cry, Kate. Damn it.
Yeah, you just
Nice.
made me feel like so welcome, like almost instantly.
Right.
If there was no like,
No
you know
idea
how
how I
when
did
you
that.
first meet people, like there's that awkward period,
Yeah.
like that was non-existent. It was just like effortlessly friends.
Like, welcome to the team. Let's be
Yeah.
buddies.
Effortless, like
Yeah.
you belong here.
Mhm.
Don't question it. Like
Yeah.
nobody's gonna question. Like this is you.
It's
And
just a
I,
matter of just displaying it.
like really, really appreciated that.
I'm glad.
And it was nice in the second year to have you, considering we had like an entirely new
Right.
staff team
Yeah.
from first to second.
Still
For me,
there.
my first and second.
Right.
Like we had
Right.
different assistant directors, different kitchen people, different counselors.
Yeah, it was a lot of
like,
people, but-
everything was different the second year except for like you,
Me, like you,
Julian,
myself, and like
and
a
Steven.
couple other people. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that was kind of, yeah, I think that helped a lot for probably you for that transition. Whereas,
Mhm.
yeah, I liked it. That was good. I don't know how I did that or what kind of took place.
I think it's
or
just who
it was
you are.
That's fair.
You're just an easy, like I personally find I take a long time to like open up
Right.
to new people, and some people are just can talk to anybody
Yeah.
about anything.
I feel
think
like
you're like that.
I like to believe so. Like I've had, I think it was Michaela tell me, who was on the show a few episodes ago, was like, I'm probably like one of the easiest people she knows to talk to.
Mhm.
Just, and it's not even a matter of like we're really good friends or we go way
Mhm.
back. It's like just
And I
easy to
think
talk to.
like, and I think
So-
that like you know how camp like accelerates
Your
like
personality.
relationships.
Absolutely.
Like you just get to know people really quickly. Like I
Right.
think even if it wasn't at camp and you met somewhere else, you would have been like just as talkative and just as welcoming.
Yeah.
Like it
Yeah,
wouldn't have
that's
been
true.
it like camp didn't make a difference in that.
Right, the environment didn't change, it was the people,
No,
right?
yeah. Like
And-
that's just
Yeah.
who you are.
Right. You're pretty open to about, like, you weren't closed off to meeting new people, you know what I mean?
Mhm,
Like,
mhm.
you weren't just, no, I'm just gonna go do my job.
I know,
No.
which like I normally am, and I had to try really hard initially
Right.
not to do that.
Yeah, I can imagine. But, yeah, because I was like, you've never worked in camp before, this will be,
No, I had
'cause,
never
like
even
Julie mentioned that.
attended. I never went to an overnight
Right.
summer camp as a kid.
So
I
this
never did
was
like a day camp.
Super different.
Yeah, like I did Girl
Nice.
Guides as a kid, but
Mhm.
it's not the same.
No. I think even now, every camp is still not the same as
No.
what we all went through.
No, and I think it would be different working at any other camp. Not just like
It was.
resources
It
and
is.
stuff. I just think all camps are
Completely different.
just, it's all about like it's like this, like the staffing relationships that
Mhm.
really, and like your campers too, that
Right.
really make a difference. But
So I know we weren't going to talk about this a lot, but I want to cover one couple things. What are some like lessons you learned, or things that you learned there that you don't feel you could have learned in other places, or doing your average job? Because I know there's definitely things that
I learned
experienced in
how
that,
to
so.
be resourceful, like work with what you have, which I do find comes into play at my current job because we are so small. We don't have as many resources
As, like,
as the
Toronto
big
or Sudbury.
hospital. So like in Sudbury, if somebody needs to be, you know, intubated and put on a ventilator, there's a respiratory therapist who is like a trained dude, and that's what they do. They intubate people, they monitor people's airways, like that's their
Right.
job. I have to become familiar with that machine because you don't really have a choice. We don't have that
You don't have
person.
a specialist.
Right? Yeah, like we don't have
Okay.
that, so you get to know like it kind of pushes you to learn a little bit more about a lot of stuff.
Right.
And I think I got like the first experience of that would have been at camp, like not forcing, but like pushing you to go a little bit out of your comfort zone.
Right. Okay. Pretty cool.
I don't know, another lesson.
What is your favorite?
Like, don't be afraid to say no.
Don't be afraid to say no.
Yeah. And like I thought that I had already learned that lesson earlier in my life, but I regressed a little bit.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, we all do with that. Because I've read that a lot of places. You're like, oh, don't say yes to everything.
Yeah. Like you can't spread yourself that thin. It's just not possible. You can't do everything, so don't try.
Don't try. That's a good point.
Mhm.
Right. What is your? We'll end it on this. What is your all-time favorite camp memory? You could pick one. It could be a moment. It could be like a conversation you had with somebody. It could be like a day. It could be like the span of, or it could just be one chunk. And while you're thinking of that, I'm gonna hit this.
I don't think that I can pick a specific like day or event.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I can pick a specific day or event. Partially because like the more that I think about them, the more like hilarious things will come back and I'll remember them. But I think the fact that there are still people that I met like only in that environment that I am still like very close with and still like treasure as people. I think it's awesome because if I never worked at camp, I never would have met you or like Tal or Bonnie. I never would have met those people, and I still like get to have them in my life, even if it's like a small piece here and there. Like we still get to like maintain. Like we still talk and we still see each other.
Like I see, like no
appreciate
time
that.
has passed.
Yeah, it's like nothing changed.
You know, it's been like almost since April was the last time I saw you? April 5th.
Yeah, it's like nothing's changed.
Nothing.
It's nice.
Yeah, it's really like
You get those people, like those core people.
It's settling.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's this way. Like there's no like awkward. Like, because I find with people who are like that, who they spend a certain amount of time apart and then they reconnect and it's like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah, like I have like two or three like close girlfriends from high school where like when we see each other, we can go like literally 6 months without seeing each other, and then you get back and it's like nothing has changed.
Right.
Like I'm gonna be in one of their weddings. Like
nice.
we don't see each other as often as we used to, but it doesn't like nothing's changed, and I find like we get to have that kind of friendship, and I appreciate that, and like with some like still quite a few people. So
yeah, it's a nice
I
like
appreciate
bond you made.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
So to end off the show, do you have one like what's your favorite quote of all time?
I don't think I could come up with one.
What is one that you feel best applies to you?
Oh God.
I'm not making this easy.
Like a quote that best applies to me.
Or that you would like the most, something that one that comes to mind that you refer to often.
Like too many. There's a poem by Emily Dickinson that's really nice.
Could you recite that poem?
No, but I could if I looked it up really quick. I think it very much applies to nursing more,
Yeah.
like more so than it applies to like me wholeheartedly as a person.
Okay.
Me wholeheartedly as a person, the best quote I could come up with would just be like, fuck.
Just picture different
I
scenarios.
use it a lot. You can use it as a verb, as an adjective, as a noun. You can use it every single way you want. Like, it's just a great word.
Fuck. That's funny.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find this poem. I'm
Yeah.
sorry if I can't. I don't remember the name of it either.
You said Emily Dickens?
Yeah,
Nice.
Dickinson.
Dickinson. Mm.
Here it is. Yeah. If I can stop one heart from breaking, I shall not live in vain. If I can ease one life the aching, or cool one pain, or help one fainting robin into his nest again, I shall not live in vain.
Nice. And that applies to your nursing career.
I think
Nursing.
more so like
Nursing.
kind of why I went into
Nice.
the career that I went into.
Right. That's good though. Like that. Kate, I appreciate your time so much. Thank you so much. It was a blast.
I had lots of fun. Thank
Awesome. I'm glad.
you.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hitting like, subscribing, following, all that good stuff. I hope you learned something. We'll see you next week. Do it up.